This presentation is intended to give you an overview of how to conduct municipal elections. The primary audience is rural clerks from communities with a population less than 5,000. According to state law, the clerk is the person responsible for administering all municipal elections. This presentation will cover three main areas: how to prepare for an election, how to conduct an election, and what action is required after an election. Regular municipal elections for the purpose of electing new council members and possibly a mayor typically take place once a year on the first Tuesday in October, although your local code may have established a different date. Special elections can occur at different times of the year. Some examples of a special election include a runoff election, if there is no clear winner after the regular election, or a local option election, if the community is determining whether to allow or restrict alcohol, or if there is a ballot measure. Municipal election laws are covered in Alaska Statute, Title 29, Chapter 26, and also your local code. It is imperative that you review your local code as it may differ from state law. Proper planning is essential to conducting a well-run election. An election calendar flags important dates throughout the process and helps ensure compliance with laws. An election calendar is available online from the Division of Community and Regional Affairs website or by contacting your local government specialist. Notice of the election is required by law. Failure to notify the public can invalidate the results and require you to redo the entire process, which can also result in expensive legal problems. The clerk prepares the notice on a single page and includes the following information: the type of election, whether it's a regular or special, the date of the election, description of seats to be filled, voter qualifications, polling locations, hours the polls are open, and any propositions. According to state law, the notice must be posted for 20 days in 3 public places, such as the city office, post office, and local store. It is recommended that you document the type of notice, the date of posting, and where you posted it. Providing a report to the council with that information will ensure that it was documented. This is important because if notices are removed and the public was not informed, the election can be invalidated. A citizen can become a candidate for office by filing for a seat. There are 2 procedures established in state law: the declaration of candidacy or the nominating petition procedure. Since state law allows either or, check to see what your local laws say. Candidates for city or borough office are required to file a financial disclosure statement with the State of Alaska, Alaska Public Offices Commission, also known as APOC. Many municipalities have exempted themselves from this requirement. Check to see if it applies to you. Also, municipal candidates who do not expect to exceed $5,000 in campaign activity may file an exemption with APOC. The clerk is responsible for creating the ballot in local elections. It will need to include a heading section stating the name of the city, the type of election, the type of ballot, whether it is official or sample, the date of the election, and possibly an area in the upper right corner to number each ballot sequentially. Following the heading should be a general instructions area, such as marking an X on the ballot, a list of open seats, and the names of the candidates for office, in addition to a spot for 1 write-in per seat. Some local laws require that the candidates' names be rotated on the ballot. Be sure to know if you are required to do so. Always proofread the ballot carefully. You can send a draft ballot to your local government specialist for review. Just like the candidates' names being rotated, some local laws require the ballot or sample ballot be printed on a specific colored paper. The ballots should be ready 10 days before the election, and the number of ballots is based on how many registered voters and expected voter turnout in the community. The sample ballot enables voters to see what the ballot will look like, Make sure that the word sample appears across the ballot and is printed on different colored paper than the official ballot. An absentee ballot is a ballot cast by a voter who is unable to go to the polling place on election day. It is the clerk's responsibility to prepare materials for absentee voting. There are different ways for absentee voting. They are mail, in-person, fax, or special needs, which is also called personal representative. Not all municipalities allow for absentee voting by fax, so check your local laws. For more detailed information on absentee ballots, please consult your local government specialist, your local laws, or the Division of Community and Regional Affairs website. It is suggested that the polling place be set up the day before the election. On the morning of the elections, bring the ballot box and the official ballots. As clerk, you will likely be one of the election workers. 3 election workers are required at all times, and it is recommended to have additional workers so that breaks can be adequately staffed. You are responsible for recruiting election workers, and the City Council will approve the selection. The workers will need to sign an oath of election official swearing to impartially perform the duties. The election workers must ensure that electioneering does not occur. Electioneering is any attempt to persuade voters to vote one way or another within 200 feet from the entrance to the polling place. This could be something as simple as a bumper sticker on a car in the parking lot or a button on a voter's jacket. Much of the time, elections will go very smoothly. The most common anomaly is that sometimes a voter is not on the master voter registration list, which is provided to you from the Division of Elections. When this happens, the person must cast a questioned ballot. You cannot deny any person the right to vote. If you are ever uncertain on voter eligibility, have them vote a questioned ballot. The person fills out an oath and affidavit envelope stating that they are a registered voter. The affidavit envelope should include the voter's name and other identifying information such as the last 4 of their Social Security number, driver's license number, date of birth, or voter number. The voter is then given a ballot, which is returned to the election judge. The returned ballot is placed in a plain, unmarked envelope, which is then placed in the oath and affidavit envelope, which goes into the ballot box. An election worker must announce that the polls will close in 15 minutes. If the community uses CB radios, this is an effective way for the announcement. Exactly at closing time, the doors to the building will close. Because of polling locations, if that is not possible, have one of the election workers stand in line behind the last eligible voter. Those in front of the election worker can vote, and anyone behind them cannot. After all voting is finished, election workers will record the number of regular ballots cast, the number of question ballots, any defective or spoiled ballots, and the number of unused ballots. The total of all these ballots should equal the original number printed. The unused ballots will be torn in half before opening the ballot box. Now comes the time to open the ballot box and count the ballots. One election worker will read the ballots and the other 2 will each keep a tally sheet. If a voter marks fewer names than there are persons to be elected, the marks will count. If a voter marks more names than there are persons to be elected, the marks in that section will not be counted, although the rest of the ballot may be counted. Any erasure or correction invalidates that section of the ballot. After counting the ballots, the workers will sign the tally sheet and then prepare the ballot accountability report. A list of the preliminary winners can be posted. The posting should state the date and time when the results will be certified and the process to contest the elections. Generally, the City Council will meet to certify the results 6 days after the election. Before the meeting, the clerk investigates questioned ballots by contacting the Division of Elections, and the ballots are either accepted or rejected at the meeting. Accepted ballots are then opened and counted at the meeting by the City Council, while rejected ballots are not opened and are not counted. The clerk must inform voters whose ballots were not accepted. The City Council reviews and approves the election results. The clerk will record a statement in the meeting minutes that the election results are in order and the total number of votes cast for each candidate. The clerk issues a certificate of election which is signed by the mayor and the clerk. State law requires that a runoff election must be held if no candidate receives at least 40% of the votes cast for that particular office. A municipality may have laws requiring more than 40% or a plurality, which simply means that the candidate with the highest votes wins. Don't confuse plurality with majority, which is more than half. Be sure to know what your laws require before you determine a winner. If your municipality has the 40% requirement, how do you know who won? Consider the following scenario. John, Jake, and James are running for office. John received 26 votes, Jake 36, and James 32, yet none of them won. To determine 40%, add up all of the votes cast, not all of the ballots cast, for each office. Here, 26 plus 36 plus 32 equals 94 total votes. Multiply 94 by 40% either by 94 times 0.4 or 94 times 40% on your calculator, and you can see that 37.6, rounded up to 38, votes are needed. Of course, if the winner is decided by plurality, or the highest vote receiver, then Jake would be the winner. When there is no clear winner, a runoff election is held. The top two vote getters, Jake and James, are placed on the special election ballot. Keep in mind when you are making this ballot that there will not be a space for write-in candidates. If the date for runoff elections is not already established in your local laws, the council will set the date and pre-clearance request will need to be submitted to the Federal Department of Justice. For more information on pre-clearance, refer to the DCRA website or contact your local government specialist. If your local laws dictate the date of runoff elections, then pre-clearance is not required. Runoff elections are then held in the same manner as regular elections. 30 days after an election that has not been contested, the ballots can be destroyed. Be sure to mail the master voter registration list to the Division of Elections so that they may update voters' history. Elections can be contested for various reasons. Often they are contested because a losing candidate requests a recount. Other reasons for contesting an election include irregularities in the election process, misconduct, fraud, or corruption of an election worker, or corrupt election practices in conflict with state laws which may change the results of the election. A qualified voter must submit a sworn, written statement before or at the meeting to certify the results. The statement must include the seats being contested, the grounds for the contest, and the signature of the person submitting the statement. The council directs the clerk, and maybe the attorney, to investigate the election proceeding and report back to them for a decision. The council may choose to accept the initial election results or determine it was improper and order a new election. Thank you for taking a few moments to watch this brief overview of municipal elections. Further training can be provided to you by contacting your local government specialist. A copy of this video, supplemental election forms, and further training can be provided free of cost to you. All you have to do is ask.